YouTube recently made a significant change to their terms of service and the right to monetize. And if you're watching this video, there's a good chance you got an email about this and are currently having a panic attack. Believe it or not, I've covered this issue as early as last year when this started to roll out as an experiment, but now we have new information and I want to update you on this because a lot of creators have anxiety about the YouTube ad monetization policy, the right to monetize, and whether or not YouTube is going to be running ads on their videos without paying them. This is going to be a longer, detailed video and a deep dive into this issue because it affects a lot of different things that you may not be aware of. I'm going to try and break it down and cover it. I am also going to help you, if you are a new content creator, understand what is happening and how this affects you. And if you are a partnered YouTube channel, you still need to watch to the end of this video on why and how this also could affect you in the future, especially if you ever make edgy or controversial content, or if you have concerns about demonetization. What I'm going to say to you is going to make more sense. Now, because the internet is going to internet, I need to make my position clear here, crystal clear. I am not in favor of this new update to the YouTube policies and to the partner program. I don't think it benefits viewers in any significant way because they want to support creators. And when they watch ads, when you guys watch the ads, we thank you because we know you're only putting up with it mostly because you feel that it's a way of benefiting us because you're getting free content. So this doesn't help the viewer. This absolutely doesn't help the creator at all. And unfortunately, some of you will get demotivated by this. And speaking as somebody who runs ads for their other online business ventures, this doesn't actually even help advertisers. It doesn't help me as an advertiser. It doesn't help me as a viewer. It doesn't help me as a creator. So no, I'm not really cheerleading this policy in any meaningful way, but I also respect YouTube's right to run their business the way that they want to run it and don't want anybody to feel like this is an excuse to go be toxic to people that work at YouTube. I think that it's our responsibility as creators to make the most of whatever situation we find ourselves in. And I want to encourage you, especially those of you who are small YouTubers, if you're new content creators, if you're rookies, don't let this be the reason that you stop making content. There's a lot more details here, but something that has to be said is that people are bringing up the idea that this exploits creators, that their work is going to be taken advantage of and monetized by YouTube. There is a concern about that. But I want to run some numbers by you before we talk about exploitation here, because I want you to understand the larger issue that is happening. The average YouTube content creator who is not a mega channel, that is not a big channel, or is not covering certain topics and niches, makes $1 for every 1,000 views they get on their YouTube videos. And if you are a smaller channel, a smaller content creator, it's very difficult for you to get 1,000 views on any of your content, and to meet the monetization requirements is very difficult for most of you anyway. But even if you were able to get those views and you were able to qualify, getting to like about 100,000 views is what it would take in order for you to meet the $100 payout threshold for you to get any money from YouTube at all. And that's assuming that you qualified for the YouTube partner program to begin with. We're not talking about the olden days when everybody could be monetized. Even if you were monetized, it doesn't mean you would get to the $100 threshold to even get paid. And if you really want me to break this down for you, I have another video that I'm going to be doing talking about monetization and everything you need to know, but here's a little teaser. Since the average content creator makes $1 for every 1,000 views on their YouTube videos, assuming they're not demonetized, assuming they're in the partner program, it means the average content creator makes 1/10 of a penny for every view they get on YouTube. No, you didn't hear me wrong. You didn't hear me wrong. 1/10 of a penny for every view that you get on YouTube, assuming you're not demonetized and you're even in the partner program. Since I talk to literally hundreds of you in Twitter and comments and DMs on a constant basis throughout the week, I know for a fact that many of you are putting hours upon hours upon hours into every single video that you make. And so from a exploitation of your labor standpoint, Even if they were paying you and you were in the partner program from 0 subscribers, it would not actually be enough to truly compensate you, and you'd be operating at a loss the first few years that you're doing a YouTube channel, even if you had AdSense. That's why it's important to diversify your revenue streams in YouTube and to expand your horizons as a content creator if you want to be full-time, because most YouTubers cannot sustain a full-time income and a healthy lifestyle off of what they earn from YouTube AdSense, especially if they never go viral. And so if you're not here thinking you're gonna win the lottery and you're taking a common sense approach, then you know that as much as this could be discouraging, it's not a reason for you to stop uploading content and building a community and building an audience. So I just felt I needed to say that up front to you, because I know it might feel like either something is being taken away from you as an opportunity to profit and that YouTube is getting over on you, but there's just not enough money in it for them as far as I'm concerned. And what the math dictates says that 90% of traffic goes to the top 3% of channels on YouTube, which means everyone not in that top 3% of elites is fighting for the remaining 10% of traffic, and therefore the smallest remaining portion of ad revenue. So I don't feel that this is genuinely exploitive, because I don't feel that AdSense would be significant enough for the majority of creators to begin to compensate them for their effort. I'm gonna try not to depress you in this video, I swear, but let's move on to the next part of this. I'm gonna link to the full policy for you to read on this and the update to the terms of service, but the shorthand version is that YouTube is reserving the right to monetize any and all content on their platform, and that monetizing that content doesn't directly entitle a creator to compensation, and this is part of what they're calling YouTube's right to monetize. What this means is that if you're in the YouTube partner program and you're suspended from the partner program, whether permanently or temporarily, or taking out of the YouTube partner program, YouTube can still run ads on your videos and they don't have to pay you for it. If you're not in the YouTube partner program, YouTube can still run ads on your videos and not have to pay you for it. And they have the right to do this within their own platform, and that's what they're communicating in this terms of service and policy update. At least that's the best way that we can interpret it as a community, unless they're saying otherwise to contradict this. This is the general understanding of what they have put out, and I don't think we have any evidence that it works differently. So what that means is that it's not about small YouTube channels and small creators exclusively. Even if you are a monetized content creator, if for some reason you are not allowed to participate in the YouTube partner program for any reason, YouTube will not be losing revenue, because they will continue to have the right to run ads on that channel if they want to. This also means that it doesn't have to be that the creator did something wrong. This means that ads can run on channels that have a significant audience that were just rejected from the YouTube partner program, meaning you didn't even get approved, because we need to talk about what it takes to be a YouTube partner, because some of you might be confused here. To qualify for the YouTube partner program, you have to have 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Your channel must be more than 30 days old. Your YouTube channel also needs to qualify with 4,000 hours of public watch time on your content, and it needs to not fall below that threshold in a 12-month period. You also then have to submit to be a YouTube partner and approved by YouTube to be brought into the Adsense monetization for the YouTube partner program. And you also, of course, will need a Google AdSense account tied to your YouTube channel. So that's the basic outline of the requirements to be in the YouTube partner program and be paid for ads that display on your videos. On top of that, your content has to stay in good standing without you getting copyright strikes and community guideline strikes, going forward, because there are other consequences with that specifically. You also need to be aware that if your content is copyright claimed by another third-party copyright holder, that they reserve the right to control the advertising on your videos, meaning that they can choose to run ads, choose not to run ads, they can choose how many ads are placed. So they would have control over the viewing experience with regard to where ads show up in a video, how many, and how often. You need to be aware of that. This will become important later. This is something that we need to think about for several reasons. If you are a YouTuber who's not in the YouTube Partner Program, not even just because you maybe didn't meet the requirements, but even if you have like 40, 50,000 subscribers and you just weren't approved for the Partner Program, you were rejected because of either the nature of your content or something to do with copyright, any number of reasons that you may not have been approved. Well, the thing is, you won't have control over ad placement. It won't just be that ads can appear on your videos, it's that you won't be in control of ads being placed or what types of ads are placed. Now, with me, for example, for years and years now, I've actually not allowed political ads to run on the channel. You may have noticed that during the election cycle that you weren't getting political ads on my channel because I'm thoughtful and I don't want you guys to have to deal with politics here. You'll only on occasion deal with politics when I decide to rant about how people who can't use email properly want to regulate your social media platforms and your social media activity and why that's a bad idea. Reference the livelihoods of content creators that were destroyed by COPPA when the government decided they wanted to regulate social media. But I digress. You at least only have to put up with that once in a while and not political ads, because I have control of the ads that show up on my platform. Now, on occasion, with the auto suggested ads from YouTube, if you don't go in and manually adjust that as a content creator or decide to disable mid-roll ads or anything like that, then an excessive amount of ads can show up interrupting a video at inappropriate points in the video. I try my best to avoid this as best as I can or when I remember, but a lot of content creators don't. The problem is that the auto placement ad situation has not been great so far, which means that if a creator has no way of controlling that by not being in the partner program, then our viewing experience as people who consume content is not gonna be that great, because at least when it was content from smaller channels that were on the come up, we at least knew that, okay, we're not seeing ads here, and we also knew that any other way that we support a creator was going to be really important to them because they wouldn't have the benefit of those ads. And now, when you watch ads, you won't even know for sure 100% whether or not it's benefiting a content creator. And that's one of the biggest issues, I think, with this policy from a viewer's perspective. From a creator's perspective, it's important for us to be able to control how our content is consumed. If you're making ASMR videos, you may not want mid-roll ads in there, and as a small creator, you won't be able to control that and guarantee that viewing experience is the best for your audience. That's actually really bad. I'm not a fan of that. I also think that it's a shame that even if you're not in the partner program, that as a publisher, you can't at least say what ads are insensitive toward your audience. There's a lot of problems with that. Most content creators who are monetized don't even know that they can adjust the ads so that their audience doesn't have to put up with certain things. This is important because there are also scams that get through the ad filters over at Google, and there are people who run scams against creators' audiences. There are people running scams trying to impersonate Mr. Beast and try to do that to impressionable viewers and take advantage of his popularity. There's no end of crypto scams happening right now. So for all of those reasons, I feel that creators being able to have some way to intervene for their audience when it comes to the advertising is something that we should have control over. I do feel that as much as YouTube has the right to monetize, we're the one who owns the relationship with the audience and probably is looking out for their best interest. But that's just my personal feeling about the subject. I'm curious about what you think about that especially, so let me know that in the comments. Let's move on to the next part of the topic. You might remember that I said that this doesn't just affect small creators. It affects more creators than you might think. I don't think it'll affect the overwhelming majority of creators. But something I want to do is I don't want you to just be angry and frustrated watching this video. I try to be very positive and thoughtful in my videos, but I also try to be transparent and realistic with you. My goal here is to incentivize you to take a more proactive approach to your journey as a content creator, whether you're doing this as a hobby or you wanted to do it full time. So with that in mind, I want you to look at this as a challenge to meet the monetization requirements on YouTube so that you can have control over the advertising, and not just for the sake of making money on YouTube, which could be important to you, but for being able to be in control of how your content is received and the advertising experience and how it does or doesn't interrupt what the viewer came for. With that in mind, I want you to watch my video on how to get your first 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. I think it's one of the most helpful videos I've made for new and small content creators, so you want to check that out. In the future, I actually have some updated videos planned around this topic and specifically the 4,000 hours of watch time. There is a series of how to grow on YouTube videos here, but I also want to encourage you to not use AdSense as a crutch if you're thinking about YouTube monetization. This channel is largely geared around the idea of making money online as a creative person, somebody in the creator economy. A lot of people want to do that by becoming a full-time YouTuber, but there are so many ways to either use the audience you're building in YouTube to do bigger and greater things beyond AdSense, or to use other social media platforms and use YouTube as a discovery engine for your own brand. And so you can have a lot of different opportunities, whether it's working with brands directly and being an influencer with that sponsored content, which I've done an entire series about, by the way, on just getting brand deals, even as a small influencer. So I recommend you watch those videos, especially since it probably pays better than AdSense. But there's also other great opportunities. Remember, it's a tenth of a penny per view. If you had a high CPM like me, $20 CPM, is $20 for every 1,000 views, but YouTube takes 45% of that. It's a 55-45 split for the content creator. So that means that I'm making about roughly $10 for every 1,000 views, which is amazing. It's actually 10 times what the average content creator would make. But that still means I'm making 1 penny per view. Rather than make 1 penny per view, consider the opportunity that there is to sell directly to your audience with things like dope merch or print-on-demand products like posters and artwork. Or if you build in a big enough audience, other opportunities open up like NFTs or doing your own physical products. Sky's the limit if you invest in building a community that cares about you and cares about the content more than they care about what platform they consume it on. I want you to look at the opportunities available to you and not just the frustration and not just the things that suck. Because I know with these videos, it's easy to get angry, discouraged, or depressed. Take it as a challenge. Take it as an opportunity to focus on meeting the numbers required. Now, remember earlier how I said that roughly 90% of the traffic on YouTube goes to the top 3% or so of channels? Let's just be generous and just say, okay, 90% of the traffic on YouTube goes to the top 10%. That should be very familiar to you. It's a reflection of every other part of reality, right? So if we're looking at that, it doesn't seem to make sense that this policy was specifically around small YouTubers. So I don't feel the impact here, it'll feel like the impact is for the smallest content creators. But here is the punchline, here is the catch. And again, I'm not claiming this is the exact reason that YouTube is doing this. This will be what we call speculation for legal purposes, if nothing else. And what I see here is this. When it comes to the right to monetize from YouTube's perspective, the ability to run ads on any content, regardless of whether the content creator is in the YouTube partner program or not, I think largely is focused around the bigger content creators, since they hold the monopoly of attention and also get paid the highest advertising rates in YouTube. And my reasoning for this is the fact that if a content creator is suspended from the YouTube partner program, even temporarily, YouTube would otherwise lose potentially millions of dollars during their suspension. So when it comes to YouTube monetization, and it comes to the right to monetize policy, it seems like the most likely reasoning behind this, because it just didn't feel like there would be enough money in the monetization of ads on videos from smaller YouTubers. This is going to happen, by the way. I don't feel that will be every single view and every single video on YouTube would be monetized. So I don't think small YouTubers have to worry as much about that as they might think, because one, we don't see that happening, at least as of right now. And number two, even on larger channels that are in the partner program and YouTube partners, you actually know this. 100% of our views aren't even monetized. Even without getting demonetized, we don't have 100% view to ad ratios anyway. And if that's not happening with channels where there's the most money to be made, with the highest CPMs, remember, there are videos I have on this channel that get 20, 30, or even up to $40 CPMs. And I don't get 100% ad monetization on that, even though it would be in YouTube's best interest. They also don't make my videos go viral, even though they would make more money. So think about it. There's not enough ad inventory for that to be the case, number one. And then number two, the concentration of that ad inventory would not be on smaller YouTube channels. It would be on the YouTube channels that stand to make the platform the most money. So once again, that top 3% of channels, or if you even want to be generous, that top 10% of channels monopolizing more than 90% of the traffic on the platform. And this is why the creator responsibility policy, I think, is the key to all of this. Again, somewhat speculation on my part. If you're not familiar, the creator responsibility policy means that YouTube can hold content creators accountable. We love that phrase, don't we? Holding people accountable. They can hold people accountable for behavior that they do outside of YouTube that they feel could negatively impact the community, or basically represent being a YouTuber in an unfavorable light in some way. We've seen things like this happen before. However, the issue is that if YouTube takes action and demonetizes one of its largest content creators for any reason, YouTube stands to miss out on millions of dollars potentially of ad revenue. Even if it's a 90-day suspension, if you're talking about a premium channel that gets tens of millions of views per month or per week, then that could be extraordinary. That could be huge, millions of dollars of revenue per week or per month for as long as is appropriate to suspend that creator. And in the case of that creator being suspended indefinitely, that's absolutely going to be millions of dollars that YouTube loses when it doesn't have to. And that's why I think the right to monetize policy really exists, in my opinion. I think that it makes good business sense to say we might need, for public reasons, to hold somebody accountable, but it's costing us our bottom line. So we can have it both ways. We could monetize and run ads against that creator's content, but at the same time, just not necessarily have to pay that creator and make a public statement that they've been punished appropriately. Now, from my standpoint, that's ruthless business sense. I'm not here to condone or condemn that. From a purely business standpoint, well, that makes sense. That makes the most logical sense. Also, silver lining here, there's been a myth in the past that YouTube doesn't show or promote smaller YouTubers and smaller channels' content because there's no monetary incentive for them. But now, with the right to monetize, you can make an easy argument that there's the incentive to monetize everything. Even though it may not happen, at least they have the right to do so. So now there's no reason to believe that they're suppressing small content creators' videos. There's no reason, because since they have the right to monetize it, since it could theoretically be monetized, well, there's no reason to specifically suppress this group of creators. So if we look at it from that perspective, which is a little generous, but it's still logical, then it eliminates that myth outright. I've always thought that that was a myth, because I always thought the data was more important to them, because I think the data is worth more money, especially when we're talking about a tenth of a penny per view here on channels that stand to get the least amount of views, not because they're undeserving, but because just statistically, they're getting the least amount of views. As I said earlier, I'm trying to approach this as reasonably and logically as possible. I know not everyone will agree with me, but I'm quite literally following the money. There is another wrinkle in this. I'm not a lawyer, but there are issues with taking on creator brand deals where part of the contract is that you don't run ads for the first 7 days. Some people have it 2 weeks. It could even be 30 days. In a situation like that, again, apologies for lawn care going on back there. In a situation like that, then a creator could be in breach of contract if YouTube is running ads on their video and they don't have the ability to override that by saying, I'm going to opt this video out of monetization and out of ads. You can't do that if you're suspended from the YouTube Partner Program or if you're not allowed to be in the YouTube Partner Program in the first place. Now, because I know the majority of you are smaller YouTubers, you probably think that this shouldn't matter to you. But every big YouTuber was once a small YouTuber, and the bigger issue is just the way that this is being handled is kind of indicative of the direction that we need to understand things are going. And while I'm not a lawyer, we need to keep in mind that there are legal consequences for this type of approach, because this isn't just about problematic content creators who may have lost their YouTube monetization, but remember that it also impacts content creators who are not allowed to participate in the YouTube Partner Program, but still may have gained a sizable enough audience to do brand deals. If you're doing brand deals and it's in the contract that you can't run ads for the first 7 or 15 or 30 days of launching the sponsored content, and then YouTube overrides your ability or denies you the ability to control ad placement and turn those ads off, you could end up in breach of contract. If you're in breach of contract, then obviously you could be sued potentially for violating the brand deal, or they could withhold payment. There's any number of things that could be taken out of your hands here. And so in advocating in the best interest of a content creator, that's why, regardless of whether or not you feel that this policy only affects problematic content creators, you can see how it wouldn't. But that even if you don't like somebody or you don't agree with their content, doesn't mean that you should be rooting for the downfall of a creator or for issues or policies or things that make it more difficult for creators to control what happens within their own content and within their own brand and within their own business. Since we've already kind of established that YouTube ad revenue is not the end-all be-all, nor is it always enough to support content creators full-time. This is part of why I'm making this brand deals series. Brand deals are one of the main ways that YouTubers monetize beyond Adsense and are able to continue to grow their platform, make a livelihood, but also to pay the people that they work with on their team. A lot of content creators, myself included, hire friends and family to help them from time to time. So this is a bigger picture issue, and that's why I've made this a deep dive video, because it is that important to us as a community to understand what is happening here and what our options are. I want to continue to encourage creators to pursue all of the avenues of monetization available to them. That is why the channel going forward will heavily focus on the business of being a content creator and the different ways to make money from your content. Also, how to build out that business, how to hire people, but also for those people who are part of the community working for content creators, I want to create resources and videos for them as well, because when you see things happen and changes go on in these platforms, which I'm gonna try to keep you up to date on, it means that we have to rethink the career choices that we're making, and we have to analyze what's gonna be in our best interest, and we have to think about how to protect ourselves. And so for me, I'm disappointed with this direction, but I also understand where YouTube is coming from, because it's a platform that frankly is not as profitable as we might imagine. The cost of web hosting is astronomical. And even though, yes, Google does absorb some of that, it still ultimately needs this platform to financially pull its own weight. And when most of the revenue is concentrated in a relatively small portion of the creators, the top creators, and those people are the most vulnerable to issues with bad PR that reflects on the community and the platform. When you have things out there, let's just say it, when there's such a thing as cancel culture, YouTube as a platform doesn't feel like it wants to lose in the bargain. And I can't really say I blame them. So while you might be watching this as a smaller YouTuber and feeling discouraged or feeling like this impacts you more, I want to remind you, most of the ads will not run on a small YouTube channel, even if some do. And I don't think it's worth feeling exploited at a tenth of a penny per view rate, since that's not going to compensate you for the time of video production and video editing, even if you got it. In many cases, even if you were getting a penny per view, it wouldn't be enough. So I want you to just have perspective. I'm not saying that this is a good thing. I'm saying it's not as bad as you think if you're a smaller content creator, and that there's some things that you now understand a little bit more, I hope. But if you are an established creator, you now know more or less where things stand, and that you have to do everything possible to protect your brand going forward, because you're not in this together with the platform, so to speak. The platform is going to make sure that it stays profitable. And so you have to make sure that you also take care of your business and stay profitable. So think about it from that perspective. Think about this from the perspective of taking responsibility for your own outcomes as a content creator, and realizing that this platform should serve as a tool and a vehicle for your goals, and not be something that you become overly dependent on, because the goalpost inevitably moves, and we've seen that time after time again. Hopefully this video was informative. I know it wasn't something that you probably left feeling great about. If you want to know about the most profitable niches in YouTube, I've made a video on that you can check out. It's gonna be linked in the description. Also, I've made an entire series on how to monetize with YouTube brand deals, which I think becomes more important and relevant than ever. So that will be in the description down below as well. As always, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget, go out there and create something awesome today. Take care.